Hello, everybody. This is your host, Noopur, and today I am really excited to have Ms. Johanna Rothman with us in this interview, where we are going to have some amazing discussions on management, leadership, hiring, and a lot more. And to the uninitiated, let me know a little bit about Johanna. She's known as the pragmatic manager, offers frank advice for your tough problems. She helps leaders and teams do reasonable things at work. Equipped with that knowledge, they can decide how to adapt their product development. With her trademark, practically and humor, Joanna is the author of 18 books about many aspects of product development. And her most recent books are the Modern Management Made Easy series, From Chaos to Successful Distributed Agile Teams, and Create Your Successful Agile Project. Find the Pragmatic Manager, a monthly email newsletter, and her blogs at her website, jrrothman.com, and createadaptablelife.com. Thank you, Joanna, for joining me in this discussion. A warm welcome to you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm equally excited, and let's jump to our discussion about management. I have seen you have written a couple of books around it, and we have heard and spoken a lot about management starts from within. So, what do you recommend for managers to manage themselves?
So the first thing to do is to understand, what value do you as a person bring in your management position? If you understand the value that you bring, you can make better decisions. And what I find is that very many managers assume a particular kind of value, but that might not be what their teams need, and it might not be what the organization needs. So it's a really good idea to check with your team and with your manager to make sure you're bringing the right value. Now, sometimes you realize that the value that your team needs and what your manager wants, they don't mesh. So that's really important to figure out. What do you do? Who do you talk to first? How do you bring the different perspectives to the various, should I say, stakeholders? Yeah, I think I should, because the people you lead and serve are your stakeholders, and your manager is also a stakeholder. So really thinking about the two of them, I should say the two perspectives, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, that's amazing. And one interesting thing that I had in my mind, and I was reading your blogs and write-ups also about it. So what I'm coming to is lead and serve. So do both of them, lead and serve, go hand in hand when we speak of management? And the next part of my question is, can we separate these two?
So the reason I say lead and serve, right? That's the name. That's the title of the second book, Practical Ways to Lead and Serve, in parentheses, manage others. That's because for many people are still stuck in 1950s or 1900 management, which is command and control. We don't need people to command and control us. We need to know what's the vision, right? What's the overarching goal? How do we have deliverables that we need to get there? That's all about the leading. And then when a manager creates the environment so that everybody can succeed, that's the serving. So the more we think about leading, what do people need to go after? What kind of a goal do they have? How can they serve the customers? Because serving the customers gets you revenue, which is what sustains the organization, right? So we need to lead the people, and then we need to serve the customers. And I find that when managers think about leading, and they don't they don't think about command and control, they are much more likely to succeed. Because now they think about leading in terms of the environment, the entire culture. And let me look back. We have questions in case you're wondering. Um, you said, can we separate the two? I don't think we can. Right? If we separate the leadership from the management part of it, that's just do this, do that. That's not very helpful. And if we separate the serving, right, if we don't know the direction that we want to go in, then we cannot create the environment that we need to fulfill that direction. So for me, management and leadership are two sides of the same coin, right? We cannot separate management and leadership. And I think that we need to really think about how do we lead people, not command and control them, and how do we serve them to create a great environment where they can do their best work.
Very beautifully explained, Joanna. I think people who are hearing this would understand clearly why do you say lead and serve go hand in hand. And now, see, there are a couple of things that will never be out of picture, like leadership, like management. There's another aspect of it which is gonna stay for long. I think it is also a timeless aspect of being into an organization is innovation. And we often talk about building the environment of organization. So, as per your experiences, Joanna, what are the three key tips you would like to share with people to create an environment to innovate in an organization?
So the first one is for managers to have the same overarching goal, right? So, and I bet you're saying, wait a minute, I asked you about innovation. Well, that this is all about creating the environment so people can innovate. So the first thing is if the managers have the same overarching goal, they can organize at the various levels of management, right? We have first line managers, middle managers, senior managers. We often talk about the senior leadership team, and we talk about product and feature teams, but we don't talk about first line manager teams or middle manager teams. And if the first line managers have the same overarching goal, that means the people on the teams have the same overarching goal. And if the middle managers have the same overarching goal, they will decide which work to do and which work not to do. When managers decide which work to do and which work not to do, then the organizational WIP, the work in progress, reduces, right? Not everybody might still be busy and working hard, but they're not frantic working on this thing and that thing and this other thing and that other thing, right? So we are managing how much work people need to deliver. And that is all an outcome of managers collaborating together. Okay, so that was kind of several things in one, but I'm going to take advantage of my three and go on from there. The second thing is for people to work as teams. You and I collaborated before this discussion, right? You didn't spring the questions on me out of the clear blue. I would have been fine if you had, but we collaborated. And the more we collaborate in the work, the better the outcome often is, right? Not always, not guaranteed, but in my experience, a whole lot more than if we do it individually. There's a word for this kind of collaboration. It's called flow efficiency thinking, right? When we work in terms of resource efficiency, where I am responsible for my thing and you're responsible for your thing, and I hand off work to you, and then you finish your work and you hand off work to the next person, et cetera, et cetera. That allows for individual rewards, but it creates a much worse work product, and it takes a long time to create that work product. So the more we collaborate, the more we work in flow efficiency. That allows us to work together for this greater overarching goal. What? My water almost went. Gotta watch my hands. So one of the big problems we have in organizations right now is we don't know how to reward people for working together. That's a problem. I'm working on that. However, if we want innovation, we need to work together. We need diverse teams who work together collaboratively to create this thing. Now, the other piece of innovation, well, there's more, but I will limit myself to three, is to encourage experiments and learning. If we have experiments, we will fail a lot of the time, right? We will say, oh, that little experiment, yeah, that didn't work so well. Fine. But we know not to go there. We know to go in another place. Innovation means we will make mistakes. We will stub our toes. We will fail in terms of experiments. And the best thing to do for that is to have short feedback loops so we can make more mistakes faster. Well, learn faster. That's really the issue. How do we learn faster? And those are my three things. Management teams for an overarching goal, which reduces the width, thinking in flow efficiency, and encouraging experiments.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And one thing that you have highlighted is learn faster. Some people call it fail faster. So different ways of expressing it. Now, coming back to one of your books, which I found very interesting with the title of it. I was looking at a couple of books, in fact, a lot of books that you have written, and I found it very interesting to read Behind the Closed Doors. It creates a little bit of suspense in the title itself. What happens there? So, what does your book talk about?
So the full title of that book is Behind Closed Doors: Secrets of Great Management. And that's often because management occurs behind closed doors. It's often in a one-on-one, which is a private meeting between two people. And how do you see what other people are thinking or learning? How do you see a manager conduct a great one-on-one? How do you see a manager conduct feedback? Hopefully it's good feedback, um, useful feedback. How do you see a manager offer coaching? You cannot see it unless you're behind that door. So that whole book was about opening that door so you could see a manager in practice. And that's why we titled it Behind Closed Doors: Secrets of Great Management.
Interesting, and I have not read it yet, but I'm looking forward to read it soon. And now I'm moving on to very relevant topic to current times. However, the concept of remote work was there since a long time. It's not something new that we have been introduced during the pandemic only. But in this last 1.5 year or 2 years, a lot of organization has gone remote. What is your advice in such an environment in terms of hiring for remote setup?
So the biggest thing is to find the hours of overlap, right? Not time zones. You're in Mumbai, I'm in Boston. We found a time to collaborate. I don't know what time it is for you. I think it's evening. I'm not sure.
It's
Um,
approximately 9:30 p.m.
oh yeah, very late for you. So because I'm on the East Coast, we would actually have more time to collaborate if it was earlier in the morning, my time, and earlier in the evening, your time. It would still be evening, right? It would still be either at the end of your day or maybe after supper. And depending on whether or not you have children and where they are in their lives, you would have an easier or more difficult time if we had to collaborate on a regular basis. This is why the hours of overlap really matter, right? I might flex. Let's not talk about the change of time over the year. Let's assume, let's assume that we don't change time, which we might get to at some point. Um, but I might flex for some number of days in the week to start my day rather early. Right. So if I started my day at 6 a.m., which I'm not really willing to do, but if I was willing to do, that would be a lot easier for you. We would have several hours of overlap um, in our relatively normal workday, right? And that would allow us to really collaborate. Otherwise, we would have to use asynchronous work to hand off work to each other and inform each other. This is why the hours of overlap are the most important thing. It all depends on what work your team has to do. So if your team is doing brand new product development where you want a lot of iteration through short experiments, then it makes a lot of sense to have people in India, right where you are, as a cross functional team who can work relatively independently and give feedback to the people in Boston. And I would have a small team in Boston who could do the same and give feedback to the people in Mumbai. Right? This is this makes sense, right? So I'm thinking a couple of developers, a tester, a product owner, business analyst in both places. And that way we could split the work of one team and offer each other feedback asynchronously. Do we ever need to get together? Yeah, we do. But we need to get together less often than if we only have a single function in Boston and a single function in Mumbai. So this is why the hours of overlap are so important. If you understand your hours of overlap wherever you are in the world, then you can say, what kind of people do I need in each place or in all the places? That's so if we start with the hours of overlap and we say we already have a piece of the team here and we already have a piece of the team here, how do we deal with all of those locations? Start with the hours of overlap, then go to I was going to say cross functional skills, the relatively technical skills, and then the interpersonal skills, which include how do we offer each other asynchronous documentation, information, whatever it is, so we can be successful as one team.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you for sharing such a wonderful solution to remote hiring. And to conclude this, I would like to ask you one question that you think I should have asked you.
So I'm going to go back to the modern management made easy principles. Now I'm going to talk about catching people succeeding. So in the Modern Management Made Easy books, I have 7 principles. Catching people succeeding is the 6th one. We often think about feedback as you're doing this wrong, right? And that change focused feedback is what we focus on. And instead, I want to offer this one reframe for feedback. If you catch people succeeding, they are more likely to do more of the stuff that works. And if you're thinking about if they do more of that stuff that works, they tend to do less of the stuff that does not. So if I can give you a quick example, many years ago, one of my managers said to me, Johanna, when you frame things like that, as opposed to your blunt and direct way of telling people they're idiots, if you frame things so that people can understand you and you show empathy with them, they listen to you more. And I thought, oh, yeah, fine. So that one piece of feedback, right? It was 20 seconds. My manager caught me succeeding, changed how I offer, well, not all the time, but mostly changed how I offer information to other people, right? She caught me succeeding. That was huge.
Yeah, that's an amazing insight. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you very much for spending some time with me for this discussion. I really enjoyed uh, talking about managing our own selves as manager, lead and serve, and creating the environment for innovation. And interestingly, to know about your book Behind the Closed Doors, which I'm going to read very soon, and hiring in the remote setup. Thank you so much. It was my pleasure to have you in this discussion.
Well, thank you. And I really enjoyed it.